Death can be a real hoot, as long as you're not the one dying. You'll bust a gut at the guy who goes belly up after his belly blows up. How about the two texters who get their signals crossed? In golf, a birdie's good, but a rat, bad. Then there's the clown who's more boozer than bozo. It's all about laughing in the face of death on 1,000 ways to die.
Warning. The deaths portrayed in this show are real and extremely graphic. Names have been changed to protect the identities of the deceased. Do not attempt to try any of the actions depicted. You will die.
Death is everywhere. Most of us try to avoid it. Others can't get out of its way. Every day, we fight a new war against germs, toxins, injury, illness, and catastrophe. There's a lot of ways to wind up dead. The fact that we survive it all is a miracle. Because every day we live, we face 1,000 ways to die. Dave the Egg Restucci was your basic big-eating, big-drinking slob.
Hello?
What?
Come on.
In other words, he was a guy. It's a wonder he could attract fleas, let alone a woman. But here was Audrey, his new girlfriend.
Sorry.
Never known for his table manners, today, Dave was really letting it fly. Audrey was mortified. All she wanted was a nice lunch, not a trip to the zoo. But something was wrong. Belching is caused by swallowing air or drinking carbonated beverages. The air is expelled back out as a burp. Dave's problem? The dozen or so peptic ulcers he's got brewing down below. They've started to bleed out. His frat boy diet is about to catch up to him.
Ulcers are like scabs that you get in your stomach. They're very similar to sores on your skin, except the sore is in the lining of your stomach. It would be like having a cut on your skin that was trying to heal, but it couldn't heal because you kept pouring battery acid on top of it all the time. This guy was a time bomb waiting to explode.
Come on, let's get this over with.
Dave convinces Audrey to punch him in the gut, thinking this might solve the problem.
I mean, are you sure?
Yeah, just
Are
right
you
in the...
positive? All right, I guess I'll do it hard.
When his girlfriend popped him, it ruptured his stomach like a balloon would rupture, and all of the contents of his stomach spilled out into his body cavity.
Dave hit the table like a beached whale and croaked. Mike Arms was an amateur bodybuilder who had dreams of going pro. But no matter how hard he worked out, he wasn't getting big enough, fast enough. He decided to take the plunge and hit the juice. Even though he was fully aware of the hazards, Mike's obsession with bulking up drove him to stick a needle into himself every day. The combination of anabolic steroids and human growth hormone gave him a rush of incredible power and size. But under his huge chest, Mike was paying an even bigger price.
Things like anabolic steroids and human growth hormones have a lot of bad effects on the heart. You can develop a heart that is abnormal. A term for that we use is called cardiomyopathy. Cardio means heart, myopathy means abnormal heart muscle.
Juiced up and full of roid rage, Mike hit the gym like a man possessed. Early baldness, shrunken testicles, and a cholesterol count through the roof were a small price to pay for a bigger, badder Mike. But while his body was getting pumped up on the outside, it was breaking down on the inside.
In this country, 300,000 or 400,000 people die suddenly every year. The majority of the people that die suddenly, the bottom of their heart or the ventricle gets out of rhythm. It stopped pumping, and if the paramedics weren't able to come quickly enough to shock him back to normal, then he died because of the abnormal heart rhythm.
Mike's obsession with his body cost him his life. Just blame it on the juice. Coming up, these two texters never got the message. Watch out! And a golfer has a rough time of it and has a stroke. Our next tale of life interrupted concerns an obsession that's spreading faster than the flu in winter. Texting. Chet and Tricia were no different than any other 20-somethings. They spent most of their waking hours, heads buried in their crackberries and cell phones, texting.
Most of the social Darwinism cases sort of revolve around individuals' behavior. But what you here see is the availability of a technology which creates ability for a big group of people to do things that they haven't been doing before.
Chet was on his way to meet Tricia, arguing by text over where to pick her up in his half-ton pickup.
What? People get lulled into a sense they can do pretty much anything in a car because most of the time nothing happens.
Relax.
Chet thought that he could text away while driving. That was dangerous.
Most of those drivers are driving in a way that when certain factors come together, they're in an irreversible situation.
Tricia thought she could walk and text, never looking up from the screen. That was stupid. We all know what happens when stupid meets dangerous.
What the hell was that?
Right now, we're sort of in this experimental phase where a technology has emerged, and unfortunately, some people will lose their lives because they don't necessarily adapt or they use the technology inappropriately. And so there's a particular social dimension in this kind of social Darwinism.
And so ends another modern romance. Irishmen Patty and Mick have two passions in life: golfing and drinking, not necessarily in that order. On a vacation to the United States, these two mates proved to be much better drinkers than they were golfers.
It's fat grass, that's what it is.
Golfers are going to the golf course to play well. They want to have a good time, and playing a good round of golf is thoroughly enjoyable. But when you do start to slice the ball and it's going very far offline, yes, you're going to either lose it or get in some brush, and who knows what's going to happen.
When Patty hit an errant shot into the rough, things got a lot rougher when a rat ran up his pants leg.
Oh, good, what? Get out, out. Oh, jeez.
The rat took off, but not before leaving Patty a big, wet surprise.
You pissed yourself, man. It wasn't me. It was some kind of bear, possum or rat or something.
Patty eventually calms down and the two finish their match. But the duffer's demise has already begun.
If you get peed on by a rat and you have a break in the skin and it's allowed to get in there, then yes, it would be possible to get infected that way. If it's a bacteria that gets into your body and then it reproduces and spreads throughout your body, and that's what makes you sick.
After a week back in Ireland, Paddy's health takes a nasty turn. He's been infected with a deadly bacteria known as leptospirosis.
Most people who get infected with leptospirosis, their immune system will kick in and will get rid of it. A few people will get a more severe form called Weil's disease.
Weil's disease attacked Paddy's major organs. First, a liver already suffering from a lifetime of pub crawling. His kidneys went next.
Very often, by the time the person is sick enough to come into the hospital, sick enough to get started on the antibiotics, the damage has already been done.
It ended with Paddy fading fast, not feeling up to par.
Pat? Paddy.
He hit into the hazard and wound up taking a stroke. Next up, a thief goes to great lengths to steal a car, just not far enough. And a clown hits the hooch and then runs into a hitch. For renowned chef Tom Bordwell, the only thing he loved more than food was driving his 1969 GTO Judge. Every Sunday night, he'd pop the top and take the kids out for a sunset cruise in his Cherry ride. But Bordwell had no clue someone else was looking to get behind the wheel of his classic muscle car. Known as the Dangler because of his technique, this infamous thief specialized in making bitching cars disappear. The Judge was next on his list. But the mission turned impossible. Somehow his slackline got tangled with his leg, leaving the Dangler to dangle. Sometimes life becomes a game of inches. The rope around his foot is just out of his reach, while below, the Dangler is a mere fingertip from his prize. The clock begins to tick on the inverted thief.
So what happens over time when we hang upside down like that, the blood pools in the sinuses, it backs up the ability of more blood to enter into the brain sinuses. The brain sinuses can't handle that pressure.
After 3 hours of struggling, his rising blood pressure begins to creep into the danger zone.
We get these venous or vein hemorrhages. These can be quite massive. That could lead to death.
By hour 12, the Dangler is fading out of consciousness. At 24 hours, the pressure level of blood pooling in the brain builds to a point of no return.
So this guy most likely died from a series of strokes that result from venous hemorrhages. So his veins can't handle that pressure. They start to blow open. As they blow open, they impair the ability of the blood to come in, and they cause strokes all over certain areas of the brain. Quite quickly, once the first stroke started to happen, or the first hemorrhages in the eye, things went downhill.
It's still a few days away from the owner's Sunday joyride. Until then, the Dangler's just going to have to hang out. Fred Garfield, a.k.a. Laffy the Clown, is on his way to his 1,523rd kiddie party. He wishes more than anything it was his last. 15 years of hard clown time has taken its toll on Fred. It was time to wipe off the makeup, take off the wig, and pop off the nose forever. The only worthwhile part of his act involved a giant balloon he called Alligator. But he just wanted to pull the plug on the whole thing. The only thing Fred really enjoyed was drinking himself into a coma. It was ironic he even became a clown. As a child, they scared the hell out of him, a condition called cholorophobia.
Probably most phobias are formed somewhere along the way when someone has a traumatic experience of some kind, and they've simply started to ruminate on it and magnify it in their mind. It could form the basis for, for a fear that grew over time.
What happens next isn't funny, it's fatal. Fred jerks to a stop. The CO2 tank used to inflate the balloon slams into the back of his car. The valve opens and the balloon begins to inflate. Up front, Fred is finishing off his flask of kitty courage. He's too drunk to notice the growing threat behind. Fred panics. His arms pinned, unable to reach the door handle, Alligator squeezes the life out of the helpless clown.
If somebody was in a car with a giant balloon, they would have pressure on the chest, which is basically not allowing them to expand the chest to breathe.
A person can suffocate pretty rapidly. If they're deprived of oxygen for over 6 to 7 minutes, they will lose consciousness and their brain will start to die.
There's nothing more pathetic than a drunken clown, except maybe a dead drunken clown. At least for Fred, clown time is over. When we come back, a TV producer captures a grisly scene of carnage. The freeways of Mexico City were the backdrop for a video shoot featuring soap opera heartthrobs on motorcycles. But in front of 3 cameras, the scene quickly became the highway from hell. It's one of the most gruesome crashes ever caught on camera, and a memory that still haunts producer Sergio Mayer.
We knew that we have good shots for that video, and we were just almost finished. I think it was gonna be just 5 more minutes.
That decision proved costly. One of the bikes stalls, the other riders slow down. Out of nowhere, a large sedan comes speeding at the troop from behind.
I remember that I have a van at my left with the door open with the camera, and I was talking to them when a car is coming by in about 80 miles an hour. I hear that noise that I'm never gonna forget in my life, and I feel like a very slow motion what it was happening, and I remember that I saw a bike passing by my side and goes pow and hit the van. My friends were at the floor screaming, and the bikes, there were no bikes, there were only pieces of bikes.
Sergio was the only member of the group to come out of the crash without a scratch. One of his friends was not so lucky.
The first ambulance arrived, and at the ambulance, he was like making his last breath, and then he stopped to breath.
In hindsight, Sergio feels like an angel was sent to him in the form of a telephone call from his son just before the shoot.
He was 5 years old, and he called me and told me, "You can't live without my bless." And I know that bless, God was with me, because I could be the one that died that night.
The brush with death, and the ability to review the tape of it from many angles has altered Sergio's outlook on life.
Nothing touched me. The bikes, the bodies, the wheels, nothing touched me. Call it whatever you want. But I know there is something special, and I know that I have some special thing to do here.
It's original.